Rugby League is back.
Drum roll, please.
You're a true Warriors fan.
I have no recollection of that hot take.
We don't all have to agree.
It's good to be back.
It's just a really boring thing.
Oh, no.
Start winning some games.
I think there'll be a lot of changes to the team.
I've got them making the 8 for mine.
Let's go.
Welcome back to The Advantage Line, your one-stop shop for all things NRL and Rugby League. Unfortunately, you'll notice that I'm in studio by myself today. No Karl Tiley. Some may think he's not here because the Wars were unable to send SJ off in his final home game up there at Shaun Johnson Stadium last weekend in the manner that would befit the Prince of Penrose. But no, Karl is out and about doing good work. He's at a Movember meeting. He's a big supporter of Movember, and he'll have some sort of golf tournament sorted out. And one guy who knows about those golf tournaments would be one Nick Tedeschi. We welcome him back in once again.
For starters, Paul. It's August, not November. So absolute G up from the get-go from Karl. And if this is not to do with last week's loss, there's a lot of talk that SJ playing his home game, he wouldn't show up this week. There was no talk that Karl Tiley wouldn't show up this week. But sometimes outsiders do get up. Very, very disappointing not to have our, I would have said once fearless leader leading the way. But look, we're all looking forward to the loosest goose in the house, Paul Maloney, trying to keep a tight ship here. So good luck. Shout out to all the legal team at Team and Team. Best of luck for the next hour and a half.
Well, yes, if you're listening to this later on this week, then obviously it got through the censors. And we've got someone else joining us as well, someone who was there up at Shaun Johnson Stadium last weekend to call the game, former Warrior, a good friend, Blake Ayshford.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Obviously, HIA, so last minute replacement, 18th man come in. And Father Tiley has, I think, put a lot of pressure on me to be the older sibling and just really make sure this runs smoothly and keep an eye on you two. He said the last words were, remember, this is now a radio show. So you two, okay? I want it on there.
There's more chance the bunker getting the call correct for the Wars than you actually keeping control of what's going on today. So.
But by the time this one gets to radio, it'll look like one of those letters from prison where everything's redacted. All the good parts are redacted. You're just going to get about 4 words out of a page. So good luck listening to this one, folks.
Right. To start off, why don't we just have a look at what we had a punt on last week and give us your best win of last week. We'll start with you, Teddy, because you probably had 1 or 2.
I might have had 10 or 12, but it wasn't enough to make up for the 100 or so losers. My best win of the weekend last week, I'll give you one for the NRL and one for World Sport. I accidentally backed Lydia Ko twice in the women's British Open. Backed her at the start of the tournament at 25-1, and then forgotten I backed her, and then backed her heading into the last round at about 12-1. So absolutely chuffed to get that. And the NRL final total in the Dragons Sharks game was 48.5, where I managed to pinch from 47.5 earlier in the day. And then Braden Trindle's just jagged 2 from the sideline in the last 8 minutes to send it over the total. So that was a pretty happy win for me there, which made up for, let's just call it we'll call it Black Saturday.
One of the great.
We'll go no further.
I'm glad that you saw the quality in Lydia Ko after she picked up that gold medal in Paris. A matter of 3 weeks or so ago.
It was nice. It was just nice to see New Zealand win, Paul.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, and there's another portion that'll be redacted before it gets out to the public. Blake, your best result from last week, punting wise?
I have these once every 3 months. I have this weekend where I'm outstanding and I go in the green quite high, and then it won't happen for 3 months, give it all back. But on the weekend, it was probably one of them. Had a lot of Quinellas, got the quaddie up at Randwick. But the big one, I at Belmont, I'm a big, look, the Parnham brothers and Pikey always seem to be in and around, whether it's trifectas, Quinellas or winners. So I usually Quinella or trifecta all of them up. And I had a nice little win on the last race at Belmont. It was a Pike and Parnham Quinella. Just 10 on, returning almost 200. So I was quite happy with that result, because they're usually good things, you know, the Parnham boys, Brad, Steve and Chris. And then you throw in a bit of Pikey, and Belmont's seemed to be good to me a bit lately.
Is there anything sweeter than winning the last at Belmont? Like, because really, there's not much more for you to do your cash on for the rest of the day. Like, you can't buy. Like, the worst win you can have all day is the first at Eagle Farm. You're completely cast in, because it's like, I'm up and about. Like, got to be gone by race 4. Like, gamble responsibly and all that. But like, you know, Belmont. You want to gamble responsibly? Find the winner in the last at Belmont.
Yeah, thank you for that, Teddy. Yeah. Well, I think I balanced the books then, because I didn't have a winning bet last week. In fact, my most successful bet was picking up one leg of a 4-leg multi. So that's how I went. I guess let's stick with the punting theme at the moment, and we'll just go back and see what we all did last week with our $100 NRL wise. And I can tell you, it was not a good week for anyone on the Advantage Line podcast. Blake, you had the Storm to win by 13 or more, into the Sharks to win by 1-12. Not quite.
I will say though, Paul, I spoke about my good weekend. If the Sharks were to win 1-12, let's just say I probably would have had the week off work. Not only for this, but it wasn't just on here. There was a couple of those bets placed, so really hurt when they kicked away at the end.
And you also had a same game multi, SJ to score a try, was and over 36.5 points. Unfortunately, that was not successful. Karl, once again, he's protecting his lead. He had a couple of bets. Was 1-12, DWZ. This was his ChatGPT bet. Was 1-12, DWZ to score a try, Whanua Blake to score a try, and the Waz to score 20 or more points. That was paying just over $60. Unfortunately, unsuccessful. And then he had the Panthers to win by 13 or more at 220, also unsuccessful as a single. Teddy, what do you have here? Over 53.5 in the Tigers Manly game. That was surpassed quite easily. Then you had Penrith minus 9.5 and Newcastle head-to-head. Unfortunately, the Panthers let you down there. And then you had a double, Jerome Luai and Victor Radley, both to score tries. Also no good.
Only 48 points from the Roosters and 3 tries by second rows, but none to be Victor.
Yeah. Well,
any chance we can go right, boys? Any chance we can go right?
That's because Crichton he just does not know how to not score a try these days. He's just
a machine. He's a machine.
Just a huge comeback after the season before. Anyway, and I had the Waz to win into the Dragons 13 or over. Ridiculous.
Close.
Fair to come. Absolutely ridiculous. Right. Karl loves his divided opinion. So we'll keep it in for this week. And today's divided opinion is, well, there's only 2 weeks to go in the regular season. So with a number of teams, in fact, there's only 2 points separating 8th and 12th places at the moment. So there's a logjam for that final spot to make the top 8. So if you look at the last 2 rounds, who have you got making the 8? And who have you got just missing out in 9th place? The team that just can't quite get there. Teddy?
I've got St George making it. I kind of went into this week thinking the Broncos would be the team to beat, but St George have Parramatta and Canberra, and I've got them winning both games. So with that advantage, I'll be on them. The Dolphins-Broncos winner will be the one that will just miss out, I think. at the moment, I feel like picking the Broncos. I'll give the Dolphins a massive chance here, particularly if Marshall King returns to them. So I'm going to go Dolphins to be the team to just miss out.
Blake, are you thinking along the same lines as Teddy? Have you got a different team?
I sort of was, but I've gone when I look back at it, and I've just gone those three teams. I think it's out of the three teams: the Dragons, the Broncos, and the Knights. I don't think the Dolphins. I think they're just on a massive slide. Now, if I'm to look at that, Dragons, I think struggle to win back-to-back games. I think they've only done it once this year. I think they'll beat Parramatta this week, but the Raiders might put up a tough fight the last week and come out and win. It's 50-50 for me. They struggle to go back-to-back the Dragons. So Broncos, they have to beat the Storm next week, who I think will most probably have at least a couple of players back. You know,
they'll be full strength next week. You'd think after all the players are rested this week.
Yeah, so very unlikely. I think the Broncos can win this week just because they've beaten. I look back at the past lineups when they've beaten the Dolphins, and it's never been a full strength lineup like they won't have this week. So I think they can do the job this week. I actually have the Knights sneaking into the 8. I have them beating the Titans and the Dolphins both at home. And I think they can sneak in there. Obviously, the for and against will be a factor, but that would be the only thing for me. The for and against might be the tough one, but I think the Knights can do it and sneak in.
I can't believe it. Okay, and who did you have just missing out?
I had just missing out. I had the Dragons 9th, Broncos 10th.
I'm thinking along the same lines as Blake here. I've got the Knights making it as well. I've got them winning out, and I've got the Dragons losing to the Raiders in the final week. The pivotal game for mine is this Saturday night, the Dolphins-Broncos. The Dolphins have been poor the last few weeks, but if there's one team that Wayne Bennett would like this team to get up for, I'm sure it would be against the Broncos. So he could pull one out of the bag here and get the Dolphins up and going. And if Jeremy Marshall-King is available, I agree with Teddy, they will present. It gives them a much better balance because then Plath goes back to the 13 and that forward pack looks a lot more balanced than when he's in the 9 jersey. So if Jeremy Marshall-King plays, I think this becomes a toss of a coin game. But I had the Knights just making the 8 and the Dragons just missing out. But if the Dolphins upset the apple cart this weekend, well, that could all get turned on its head.
Well, the trouble with the Knights, the only trouble with the Knights is what I see is obviously the for and against because they're minus 70. And if you think the Broncos will win this week, you know, they're there in the plus. Or if the Dolphins win this week, you know, they've still got almost a 50-point start on the Knights. So that would be the only thing with the Knights. But in saying that, they do play the Titans this week, who are very leaky at the moment.
As a fan of the team most likely to come 5th, I would do anything for the Knights to be the team to sneak in because Adam O'Brien's record of when he somehow sneaks. There's never been a worse coach. I'm not saying he's the worst coach ever. A worse coach who's had more unjustified finals runs than Adam O'Brien. He must have jammed him into the finals 3 or 4 times during his existence. They've barely won a game, and they would get absolutely smoked. Well, they're a worse team than the Dragons for mine. And I don't disagree. I think you both make a very compelling case for the Knights. But I would love for them to come 8th. Would love it.
Well, this is the sort of thing they did last season, the Knights. They went on a run to squeeze into the 8 and then were dispatched quite convincingly. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them sneak in there.
As a fan, though, I really do hope the Dragons make it. I know I only had them winning 1 or 2 games this year, but can you imagine a Bulldogs-Dragons semi-final at Accor? I mean, they'll go close to selling that out. If not, they most likely would.
It'd be elite, and Dogs would still be 16.5-point favourites.
Sensational. I look forward to it. Can I take the line now?
Or you want the minus or the plus?
I've got another question for you boys before we move on. And Blake, we'll probably head to you first, seeing as you've probably seen this from the inside out. do the Wars get a fair go from officials when you compare it to other teams?
Look, it doesn't seem like it, but I don't get in on the whole conspiracy theory. I think what happened on the weekend was bad, and I think over many years there have been bad calls, but I purposely don't think that they say this is the Warriors. Let's not give them penalties. We do know that the better teams do get favoured. That's an obvious, and you can make that argument. The teams higher up in the ladder do get usually they win the penalty count more often than not, or they do get allowed with more. But I think that was just a really bad call. I on the weekend and actually basically over the whole year, that was probably one of the worst calls I've seen this year in regards of consistency around everything else.
Are we talking about where Roger Tuivasa viciously headbutted Stephen Crichton's shoulder?
Oh,
yeah.
See,
I don't know if it's that one or the one where Mitch Barnett almost broke his eye socket. I don't know. I don't know which one. It was hard because only one's getting talked about. But yeah, it's hard to tell. But look, I understand as a fan, and that point you do think that because it keeps occurring. But look, I don't believe in the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring Teddy in on this one because I think I already know his response. But Teddy, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's absolute garbage that the Warriors have been victimised here. Like, it was a shocking call. Like, he was lucky not to be sent off last week, Stephen Crichton. Like, it was that bad. And for once, everyone in rugby league is in full agreement, including Graham Annesley. He didn't even try to defend it. Like, it's bad enough that it escaped on-field punishment, but for the bunker to review it and then not sin bin him is ridiculous. But it's just the overall incompetency of officials at the moment. Like, it is happening to, what probably happens to more bad teams than good teams. That's because I would say good teams tend to be more disciplined than the poorer teams. But bad decisions are happening everywhere. There is absolutely no consistency. It's a structural problem. You shouldn't have 8 different people who all have, who for the most part are on-field referees as well, who have their own biases, and not in terms of for or against teams, but in how they view the game. It should be a group of 3 or 4 people who do every single game, and that will bring about more consistency. I'd say it's got nothing to do with the Warriors and more to do about the overall structural problems and the lack of accountability currently within the officiating ranks of the game.
The on-field refs, they do video sessions, just like the NRL players do. So they have this person's offside continuously. He's on the left side centre.
Yep.
Blah, blah. So they're things they watch. So that you can point to that in a way that there are people like a Jared Hargraves, Wadira Hargraves. He constantly gets penalty against him, but it's because they watch people and they learn their tendencies. So
they've got tip sheets like every week, and the bunkers in there reading the tip sheets out. Look out for Jared. Look out for Jared. Yeah.
And I think exactly you're right, Teddy, that there needs to be some consistency in the bunker with people. Pay them whatever they want, but have the same person or have them doing this game or however they see fit. You just can't continuously have different people because you see on Friday night there was 2 sin bins for head highs.
Yeah. And they weren't going to send Murray. They weren't going to send Murray to the sin bin either until obviously someone got in their ear.
And that's the thing. So it's like, why was it just that game? So that's why I believe, to your point, Paul, there's a lot of people saying, well, is there a bias? Because it happened all over the weekend except for the one game.
Well, what drives me nuts is this, though. So to be an on-field referee, you pretty much need 2 skills. You need to know the rules of the game, and you need to be super fit. Well, to sit in the bunker, you need only one of those skills. You need to know the rules of the game. You're cutting out 95%, 98% of people who aren't fit enough to be a referee from doing a good job in the bunker. You can find 3 or 4 fat blokes like me who know the rules, who without any of the biases, who know the game through and through. Obviously, you're not going to include me. I've got too much of a gambling disposition, but. You cut away all this stuff, and Jimmy Smith made a good point on his radio show on SEN last week. He goes, these referees compete with each other for the good spots. So if Jared Sutton's in the bunker, he might not be necessarily doing favours for Ashley Klein. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's deliberately going out of the way, but they're competing with each other. Like they've got different views of the game. If you find, say for example, you get us three in the bunker every week, we discuss what we think's a try, we discuss what we think's a high shot deserving of a sin bin. We know what that is. So we among ourselves are talking about it. We aren't trying to get grand finals. We're in the grand final. We're the only three doing the bunker in every game. That's the kind of structural changes that's required for me. And open up the game to fat blokes, unfit blokes, old blokes who know the game through and through, but just don't have the fitness to go and be on-field official.
So do you think that officials in the bunker shouldn't be on-field referees?
Yes.
Like they should be totally separate.
I think not even to that point, Paul. I would not even let them ever talk to a referee outside of the bunker. But these people should be kept completely separate and get away from the disease-ridden culture that is in the officiating, where you think the thing that really gets me is this: I'm smarter than you kind of thing. We go back to that try from the Storm against the Panthers a couple of weeks ago, where Nathan Cleary got taken out. I think Tango made the bad decision. It 100% should be a try in a vacuum. But based on everything we've seen this year, that's been called back every single time. You'd all of a sudden have to try that way because Jared Sutton's decided he wants common sense to prevail. You can't have that. That is the kind of, there's some cultural issues and accountability issues there that are really poor. But Liam Kennedy got dropped from everything this week. I would have my last dollar that he will be back next week.
Well, he was. He got dropped, Teddy, and then he was the touch judge in the Dragon Sharks game.
Yep.
On the weekend.
I know.
Where's the punishment then?
Where's the immediacy? So, yeah, it drives me nuts. One thing that I would love to see and I get super frustrated watching his Annesley press conferences on a Monday, where he selectively brings out the bunker audio at times that suit him. The bunker audio should be live and available at all times, and that would really stop some of the rubbish that's being talked into their ear. I'd bet that, because I would love to have heard the conversation that went on with Kennedy in the bunker after the Crichton high shot, and then I would love to have heard what went on in the talk with Chris Butler and Cameron Murray when he was down for ages. They talked about it. He got put on report, and then all of a sudden he gets him in. I want to hear the call from Graham Ramsay going, "Are you going to put him in the bloody bin?" Because I'm sure that's what happened.
Well, Paulie, just one thing, and this might roll Teddy up a bit. The one thing I like about rugby union, and I saw it the other week in the test, was Angus Gardner, I think, the referee. They were going to give a penalty in the bunker, in that the TMO, whatever it is, was saying, he's connected with the head. And then he said, I think it's only, there's no real force in it. I think it's just a penalty. So I think the referee should have the ability to look at it and go back and say, I believe it was just this. I was 2 meters away from it. I could see that there was no real force to it. And they can have that conversation where we can all hear it. I think that might be a way too.
I think we've just solved a whole lot of problems for the NRL in the last 5 or 10 minutes. So hopefully someone's listening, and we can get a wee bit more consistency maybe into next season, because I found a little stat on Twitter earlier this week, and obviously it's 100% true. It's around all the times the Wars have been on the wrong side or not getting the rub of the green from officials. And we only have to go back to, I think it was Jamie Salmon in round 18, late in that game, where once again, I think he took a Warrior out late and fairly high, and nothing, not even a penalty. Yeah,
but it was evened up by the fact that we were playing Jamie Salmon, so...
Well, he's back in again, Teddy.
Yeah, I'm well aware, Paul. You know what? The staph infections don't last as long as they once did, Paul.
Oh, my God. There's another redaction. Fair dinkum. The views of Nick Tedeschi not condoned, or indeed shared.
I'm also not a doctor, Paul, so...
Shall we move on to the grid? Let's get out of this mess that we've created. And if you're going to do the grid, this is the grid from Tuesday, the 27th of August. So just pause the pod now. have a go at the grid, and then come back and find out how you fared against us three. Along the top, played for 4+ clubs, played a game for the Sharks, or a premiership winner, and down the left-hand side, played for the Raiders, played 100 or more games, and played for the Broncos. Let's start on a high. We'll go to Teddy first.
4+ clubs Raiders. Danny Levi, 3.82 points. Sharks and Raiders. Hulking prop Jason Williams, Wizard, 0.91. And premiership winner Raider Brett Mullins, 1.48.
Wow.
Unicorn.
Wow. Gee. Yeah, well, we're fighting for second place here, Blake.
Yep.
What do you got?
I've got played for 4 clubs. Tyron Smith, 1.60 brain. Sharks player, played for the Raiders, Andrew Lomu, 3.19. And premiership winner for the Raiders, the big hombre, Toddy Payton, 5.32.
I've got played for 4+ clubs and played for the Raiders. Tyron Smith, 1.60 brain. Played for the Raiders and also played for the Sharks. Colin Best, 10.93. And played for the Raiders and won a premiership. Brett White, 5.03. Teddy, your second line?
4+ clubs, 100+ games. Tyron Smith, Wizard, 0.37. Shark, played 100+ games. Nick Graham, 0.36. And premiership winner, played 100+ games. Brent Sherwin, one of the greats. Brain, 0.24.
How can you compete? I've got played for 4 clubs and 100. Edric Lee, 0.93. I've got, in the next one, I've got Paul Mellor, Wizard, 0.44.
One of the greats, Paul Mellor.
Yep. He was, I used
Did he
to
play
love
in the
watching
centres, second row?
Yep. Centres, big body, very hairy man.
I think he had two. I think he had 2 stints at South, Cronulla, and Canterbury. He just kept cycling through the clubs.
Okay, so they played 100+ games, played for Cronulla, and is a very hairy man. Okay.
And the last one, premiership winner, was Benny Barber, 0.38.
Oh, wow. I'm gone. Played 100+ games, played for 4 clubs. Daniel Vido, 0.58 brain. Played 100 or more games, played for the Sharks. Dale Finucane, 1.64. Played 100 or more games and is a premiership winner. Kurt Capewell, 0.39. Teddy?
Very nice. 4+ clubs, Broncos, Ben Hannett, 3.06. Shark and a Bronco, Paul Green, 2.92. And premiership winner, Broncos, Shane Perry, Wizard, 0.43.
I've got played for 4 clubs, Broncos, Andrew Lomu, was a bit of a guess. It just snuck in. Didn't have too many games there, I don't think. Next one, Albert Kelly with the Sharks and the Broncos, 3.64. And the premiership winner was Israel Folau, Brain, 0.97.
Oh, gee. I've got Neville Costigan, 1.67.
Nice.
Brett Seymour, 4.35. And Israel Folau, Brain, 0.97.
Whatever happened to him? He left rugby league in 2010. Never heard from him again.
There we go. A nice little side.
13.6, Paul. Now I've got you cracking.
I think I finished second on 17.2.
Oh boy! One of my best scores ever, 27.2. Where were you on the leaderboard, Teddy, when you did it?
I was like 18th. It was pretty late in the day, so I did all right. I thought I was going to go well. I lived in Canberra for like 8 years when I was when I went to uni and just after. So I got a lot of early 2000s Raiders knowledge, which helped me, as opposed to the usual Warriors stuff that usually pops up on a Tuesday.
That's what we want. We always need a Warriors Tuesday, a Warriors jersey on the NRL grid Tuesday, so that we can sort of even things up, and we'll get closer to Teddy, I'm sure. Right, let's have a look back at last weekend, and what was it, round 25? 25 last weekend. There are a number of upsets, and I noticed over the first 3 games of round 25, if you got out to an early lead, really wasn't the best thing for you. The Eagles, I think, got out to 16-0 against the Tigers. The Wars got out to 12-0 against the Dogs. And the Eels, I think, got out to 16 or 12-0 against the Broncos. And all 3 of those teams then went on to lose. But if you look back last week, Teddy, is there any one of those, any game from last week you want to just have a look at and pull out a couple of things?
Well, I'm guessing no one else will bring it up, so let's go with the Warriors Bulldogs to kick off with. Look, it was. I thought they did a wonderful job sending off Sean Johnson in terms of the pre-match and all that. I thought it was the last real tear I can remember on a footy field was Wayne Pearce back at Leichhardt back in the day. So in a pre-match, so. I did laugh hysterically when he got thrown the first ball and the tears were still in the eyes and he coughed it up. But that's just what the Dogs have been doing lately. Like, the Dogs are just getting into the grind. And I don't know that there's a team in the comp at the moment who could outgrind the Bulldogs. Other teams are more brilliant and can absolutely blow the Bulldogs away. But the Bulldogs are just showing a tremendous amount of patience. And I don't think I've let in any more. 8 times this year have held teams scoreless in the second half, which is a remarkable effort. So they're back in their fitness, they're back in their goal and they're now back in their ability to score late in games. So Dogs didn't panic when they were high. Like 12 points last year, 12 points any time over the last decade would have been enough to beat the Dogs. Like we weren't a come from behind team, but a couple of balls I just want to play. Harry Hayes looks like a real likely prospect from the bench. He's a big body, plenty of effort, plenty of heart, and got a nice little offload on him. So liking his work. And Bronson Sherry, I really never expected him to be as good this year. He played 1 year, was obviously I think Rookie of the Year, had a great season for the Sharks. Drugs, 4 years. Never expect him to return with the football sense that he's got. Like, he is just showing a great, his defensive reads are wonderful. He runs that real courageous kind of hardball line, like little out to win. Like, he's doing everything right. So, super impressed with the Dogs. With the Warriors, I just think in the end, you're outclassed by a better team. And once the emotion of that start kind of wore off, it really did become a pretty difficult task for the Wars there. But I don't think lost too many admirers. But I think the question's going to be now, what do you do next year with that fullback slot? Chan's been given it. He's been moved to the centres this week, I think. We'll get to that a bit later. But I imagine with a full off season, they're going to be moving Roger to fullback next year.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll only be playing against 13 on the field at one time, the Wars next season. That might help them pick up that win percentage.
I wouldn't back on it based on the long list you've got, Paul.
Blake, I'm guessing you might want to mention the Tigers after that.
Well, I just wanted to stay on that game for a bit.
Yeah, go on.
I like with the Warriors. And I'm not saying they would have won that because I don't think they would have. But has there been a team? And we talk about injuries week in, week out, but we talk about it in injuries during the week that they're out for the. Has there been a team that's lost more players during a game? Like, I think the last time they played the Dogs, they lost their 2 centers. They lost their 2 centers again on the weekend. Like I reckon they've had the most injuries during a game than any other team this year. And I still don't think they would have won the game, but I don't know how they go about it. Whether training, they have to just start using everyone. Just train there, go train in the centre, because that's what seems to happen. Kate Ball's probably played more centre this year than he has at back row. But on the Dog side, Teddy, Bronson Cherry, he's 23. And
it's unbelievable.
He's amazing. And you know what? I think the game now suits him better than it did when he first started, because back then it was more defensive orientated. The game got slowed down. The centres weren't as effective. They were more used back rowers, centres. Whereas early on, like, the late 2008, 2009, probably to about 2011, 12.
The peak Ayshford years.
Well, yeah, you could shift the ball to the centres.
Yeah.
It wasn't
You're
like
right.
like that. That's probably suited him a bit more. And you see it now. And the Bulldogs, the way the Bulldogs play is so exciting to watch because they tend to throw it around a lot, and their strikes obviously both their edges.
Yep.
So you've got Crichton, Cherry, Adokar, and Carraz, and you've also got a kick out there with the Preston. So they shift the ball. They don't really stay in the middle third overly often. And
Because we've got pretty ordinary props.
yeah, but the thing is, like, they can throw it around, and their completion rate's so bad. But when you've got a Matty Burton in your team, do you see that kick on the weekend? He was from his own 25. Dallin Lesniak was back there. He read it, and he still kicked it over his head. And like when you've got something like that, I actually think they can win the comp. And that's not even a word of a lie. The way they're structured, the way they play footy, it's like they don't care if they make a mistake because they'll defend it. But if they only make 20 metres on a set, you've got Burton who can kick you out of trouble every set.
Yeah,
like
spot on.
Just dangerous.
Just a couple points to that as well. Like, that's why those centre injuries have hurt you guys more this year than it would have 5 years ago. Putting Capel in the centres 5 years ago is fine. Like, it was another second rower. This year, leaving Capel on an island out there, as good a player as Kurt Capel is, he's not a centre anymore. And that exposes them. I think that has hurt you guys. It's hurt Manly a few times this year as well. I can recall I've just been left there without any centres. You really have to be putting a genuine centre on the bench. But I think you're right. I was kind of not really a believer that the Bulldogs could win the comp. With Penrith kind of coming back to the pack, and the way the Dogs are playing, absolutely they can win the comp. Like, I don't think I'd be scared of any team in the comp. I think we couldn't win a game. Like, don't get me wrong, like, Melbourne would start favourites against us, Penrith would start favourites, Roosters would start favourites. Dogs have got the ability to do it. And one of the things I love with how they've been coached at the moment is that they're playing to their strengths. Like Blake said, strengths are out wide. So what do? We play out wide. Like, not just do the follow the leader of what every team used to do, just like, well, Craig Bellamy does this, so every team's got to play this exact same style. Like, it's like if you're a different team when you're built differently, play to your strengths. And the Bulldogs are playing with width, playing without fear, but also playing like extremely disciplined. They're not throwing the ball around willy nilly. They're spreading it early, or they're spreading it late. Like, they're not just, we've had two bad play the balls and we're going to throw the ball wide. Like, they kind of know when to do it. And they've got the greatest get out of jail free card of all time, Burton's boot. Because if you get 5 stuck inside your 20, he's still going to get you out of there.
You mentioned the Panthers coming back to the pack slightly, Teddy. After that loss to Canberra, should Panther fans be a wee bit more wary?
I would think so. Like, that's 3 poor performances in a row. That should have lost to Parramatta, lost to the Storm at home, and then lost to the Raiders. Now, there's been excuses, but I thought they played quite arrogantly on the weekend for a team without Cleary. They're not adjusting their game plan particularly well. And there's just been a lack of energy that we haven't really seen from Penrith. Like, this whole decision to drop Taruva, yeah, it might be the right side. I don't know. But like, they've won a lot with Taruva and they haven't been winning a lot with Dane Laurie on the wing. So, and I admit Dane Laurie probably is a better player, but it's not always about picking the best players. It's about picking the best team. So, yeah, the backup half, which had served them so well over the years, the Jack Cogger role, Brad Schneider has been poor. And Jack Cole's now out for the year. So they're in some strife there. Now, the good news for Penrith is I don't think the Cleary injury is as bad as first suspected. I would expect he'll play next week. So is the mail I'm getting out of Panthers camp. So all's not lost for sure, but geez, they're playing for a minor premiership 2 weeks ago. Now they're struggling to stay in the top 4.
Blake, your Tigers, look, if they're going to play the Sea Eagles, there's only one ground they should play at, and that's Leichhardt Oval, because for some reason the Sea Eagles just don't like heading west out to Leichhardt Oval and taking on the Tigers there. And they got off to a nice start, the Sea Eagles, and boy oh boy, I think off the energy of Coruscant, who's just been immense for them. He's just been that little spark that starts them starts their momentum getting back into a game. But you could name a number of players who played very, very well for the Tigers.
Look, I think there's some life in them now that they've got, a couple of signings, some good signings. You've got a Luai and things coming, and now Stefano's obviously said he's going, so there's rest there. They know who's coming, who's going at the moment. I still think there's one or two signings to be had. But, look, I love everything about Lachlan Galvin at the moment. You see a lot of teams, the 7 will play on one side, the 6 will play on the other, or someone will just take control. He was in everything. He would play to a back row on the left, he'll pop up. But then you've also got that Uppy Coruscant threat that you spoke about, Paul. It's exciting, and it's exciting but frustrating at the same time, because you see what they can do, but they just don't have the quality of players to match week in, week out at the moment. Like they'll be good when they get a couple more players. It's just the quality of players they just have at the moment are not capable of competing week in, week out with other NRL teams. And what it has done, though, is set us up for the Wooden Spoon Bowl next week.
How exciting.
It is good. How good is it just, that you've got at least something there next week? I can't remember the last time there was a Wooden Spoon Bowl. It might have been like round 24 or something, but now we're the last round. They're going head-to-head. Tigers
Perfect time slot.
Need to win.
Perfect time slot. They hate each other.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, though, like as much as I love a Bulldogs premiership, it's a tight run thing as to what I prefer, a Bulldogs premiership or an Eels wooden spoon. So, come on, Tigers.
Any other games you want to touch on from last week, Teddy? Boy, the Storm just keep rolling along. Way too good for the Dolphins. The Roosters.
Scary.
They're scary. Yeah, I don't know.
They should have put 70 on them. No, that's the worry.
Exactly what I thought too.
My worry with the Roosters is they're drifting in and out of games, and something like it's almost like they buy their own hype. They read their own paper. They read their own newspaper. Like it's when they're on, they play just a great brand of football. But boy, for periods they absolutely stunk as well. And you really say about a team who put 48 on.
And I think the problem with the Roosters, we just spoke for a couple of minutes about the Bulldogs. They get out of jail free card with Burton. The Roosters do not have that at all. They don't really.
No kicking game.
Brandon Smith's not a kicker. Walker and Kiri don't get like if you get them inside their 40 or
great
on
short
the line,
kicking games.
Yeah,
great short kicking games.
They're probably up there with the top of the league. But then you don't even get that reward now because a lot of teams are going for short 10s. So look, I think they can outscore anyone at the moment. I think I put it down to the Final Four. It's taken usually at this time of the year. It's usually the Panthers will play this team, but I think it's down Penrith, Bulldogs, Roosters, and Melbourne at this time of year. I think any one of those four. I think they'll be the last four in it.
Yep, agreed.
If you look at the halves around there are a number of halves who do have very, very big kicking games. The biggest is probably Matt Burton, but you got the likes of Jamal Fogarty at the Raiders, Adam Reynolds at the Broncos has got a pretty big boot on him. It really does, I guess, save the fort. It really does say you're almost getting an extra tackle with a guy who's got a big boot on him. And as you say, if you can keep a team inside the 30 or inside the 40 for their 6 and they don't have a kicker, well, then you're usually going to be starting your set from a very, very good position. So it's not surprising to see Jerome Hughes at the Storm. He's another one who's not just got a bit of distance on him, but he's very, very accurate with his kicks as well. So we'll leave it at that for last week. We'll have a look at this weekend, and I don't know what games you want to have a look at, but I'll tell you there's one game that really sticks out for me punting-wise, and that's the Thursday night game, the North Queensland Cowboys and the Melbourne Storm. I think the market has overreacted here, and I'm very, very keen to take the 12.5 at the Storm again. And I'm happy to take them head-to-head as well at around $4.10. Teddy, you got any numbers that would help me out here?
Yeah, I'm with you completely on this one. I was stunned at the move here, considering that I don't think the Storm are resting as many as I thought they would. I know they've rested 8 starters. Still got the Pat. Still got Munster. Still got Wishart. Failongo. Like, there's a pretty hand of Christian Welsh as an Origin player. Like, these aren't no names coming into the side. Grant has to play halfback's a bit of a concern, but I will say the Cowboys have covered just 3 of their last 13 at home. The underdogs are scoring 48 or more, cover at 68%. And teams are scoring 48 plus, cover 71% in the back end of the season. So Storm have covered 5 or 6 in a state. I think they can cover this. I think they can win it as well.
Blake, I look at the Storm.
Yep.
Their Thursday night specials. They've played 5 games on a Thursday night this season. They've won all 5. That includes wins against the Roosters and the Panthers. So I look at it and I just can't understand why they are they're just not liked by the bookies at all on Thursday night.
Oh, it's definitely, like you said, an overreaction. But there are a couple of names that if you're not, into the game and don't look at the grassroots and the New South Wales Cup and things, you wouldn't, or Queensland Cup, you probably wouldn't know. The other one, Chan in the back row, I saw a stat on Instagram. It could have been he's on a 10-game winning streak or won his first 10 games in the NRL, so he's undefeated. So
he's a very good player, sir.
There's a lot of little things in there you can look at, but I'd be taking the 12.5 with it. Yes, they can win, but I just think the Cowboys have got a lot to play for. And look, we know that hasn't always worked out well for them. But I think the 12.5 is pretty safe. You very rarely see a Melbourne team get blown out, even when they have no one playing.
Teddy, your Dogs taking on the Sea Eagles. You're $1.57 favourites. Manly, $2.40. This is a pretty important game.
Pretty important game. And dogs are no certainties in this one. I've said the last few weeks they're due a letdown. Manly have absolutely had the wood on the Bulldogs. Like they've won 9 of the last 10. They scored 31 or more in 6 of the last 10. I know this is a new Dogs team, so that kind of stuff should be taken with a grain of salt. Dogs have covered 15 of the last 20, so I'd say the market's generally got them wrong 9 of 10 at night. But Manly have covered 10 of the last 13 as an underdog. Yeah, I'm tipping Canterbury, but I won't be all in on the Bulldogs' minds, that's for sure.
Blake, did you want to have a little word on that Dogs Sea Eagles game?
Yeah, look, I think 240 is a good price, to be honest. I wouldn't be really jumping at it, but Manly with the start I do like. Also, I think the Bulldogs just need a loss before the semis.
Yeah.
Whether it be this week or next week, I just think they need to have one just to refocus. And sometimes, look, we're just saying that. Sometimes you can go through a winning streak and then just continue it on. But, yeah, I think Manly are a chance in this one, a massive chance, especially after losing to the Tigers last week.
Panthers very hot favourites against the Rabbitohs, $1.14. Bunnies, $5.75. The Eels and the Dragons, well, the Tigers will be hoping the Dragons do them a big favour and knock over the Eels.
Won't matter, Paul. Won't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It all comes down to the last
Whoever
week.
wins the last one,
of course. They've got the bye. They get the 2 points anyway. Yeah. Dolphins.
So there's actually a little rumour going around that the Eels may rest a couple of players to try and get ready for the Wooden Spoon Bowl, which would be all time. The one person they should be resting is Trent Barrett for the last game. But,
There it is. There it is.
Oh, we've got the Trent Barrett stat in there straight. Oh, yeah, give us a Trent Barrett stat, will you, please, Teddy?
14-54 in his last 4 years as head coach. And sad time, only 2 more games left. You would imagine his career as a head coach. So I'll enjoy this for the penultimate time.
You almost skipped past that real fast, Paul. He managed to get one in.
Dolphins, Broncos, big derby there. Dolphins $2.90, Broncos $1.42.
Dolphins not without a chance that one, Paul.
Yep. You'll have a team coming off, what is it, a 40-plus loss win. Usually you've got a stat that says they bounce back.
They bounce back. Teams are conceding 48-plus kind of in the post-origin period, cover at 69%. But the Dolphins, they've covered 6 of the last 8 off a loss of 13-plus. And in both games, they've conceded, in their last 2, they've conceded 40-plus. They've covered. So I think I think they'll be lifting. I really love the probable inclusion of Jeremy Marshall King as well. When you mentioned it earlier, like Pat's a great player, Pat's a tackler. Marshall King's a creator, and I think that'll be important. So, and they were in that Storm game for a long time. I think it was 6-0 after half an hour. Like it all went sour very quickly, but and that's obviously a concern in itself. But the 3 games against the Broncos have all been close. I think margins have been 4, 8, and 14. So they've covered 2 of the 3 Dolphins. So I'll give the Finns a run here at the plus, but also fancy they can win the 12th stick.
Blake, Dolphins, Broncos?
I think the Broncos, I'll go into it more in my bets, but I think the Broncos will get the job done just on past previous games. But yeah, look, I think the Dolphins will make it close. I don't think it's going to be a whitewash. The Dolphins seem to always be in a lot of games and make it tough for teams, whether they're in the lead or they're coming home strong. But I think the Broncos get it done. Very short,
Right.
Very short.
They are a bit short. Sharks, $1.18. Warriors, $5. Teddy mentioned earlier, Charles Nickel-Klokstad heads into the centres to replace RTS, of course, who can't play. Tuopiki takes the number 1 jersey. The forward pack has I'm going to say this is probably what Webby would have had as his number 1 pack from week 1 if everyone had been healthy, possibly. But it's going to be a tough ask heading over to Shark Park to take on the Sharks. And, of course, Nico Hines is named in the reserves, so there's a possibility that we may see him back as well. Teddy, is there anything any sort of morsel that you can hand Warriors supporters around them, plus the points maybe?
No. This is a minus job here, unfortunately, Paul. Said though, I don't know how they bounce back from the emotion of last week. Like this game could not mean any less than surely. Like the last week seemed a big farewell for all their departing players. The Sharks are very good as a big favourite and very good when they score well. They've won 11 of the last 15. The Wars 4-13 against the spread, getting 14 or more start. Not ideal. They've got a poor record of conceding 30 plus 11-17 against the spread. And bottom 4 teams off a loss of 7 or more cover at 49%. So I think it's going to be a pretty inglorious end for a pretty disappointing season for the Wars.
Geez, that goes everything against the bet I'm going to put up.
Here we go. Tell us why the Wars are a chance here, Blake.
Mate, mine's more just, being in that position before myself. My last game had to go play Canberra. It was the last round. We're already out. There's nothing to play for. And, you had some people who didn't have the best years, but they were individually back to their best in that game somehow. So it's more just looking at the price at $5, 14.5 head start. I just think they can make a game of it. It's probably better for them if Nico Hines does play, to be honest, because the Sharks are rolling without Nico Hines. So you chuck Nico Hines back in, and I think it disrupts it a bit because he's going to be the main ball handler. So I just as more just to play for myself being in that situation before. I think Shawnee will go out. And just, look, you talk about the emotion last week. There also was a lot of pressure to do it at home in front of a sold-out crowd, your last home game ever. Now you're going over to a place, you had a couple of games, and I do this every week. I look at the Warriors team and I go, how is this team not in the top 8? Because on paper, they look a lot better than most teams. But the game's played out there in between the white lines, and I just give them a chance with the line. I don't think they'll be winning, but I think they can at least put up a fight.
Right here, a couple of games on Sunday. Do you want to touch on either of them, Teddy?
I think we are in for an absolute points fest in the Newcastle Titans game. I think it is going to look like the Roosters game last week. I think this is going to hit the over very early on. So I'll be looking to play around some kind of Khan Pereira, 2-3 plus tries in that one. I give the Titans a massive chance here too. Like they are, you mentioned that the Warriors don't look like a bottom 4 team. I don't think the Titans look like a team that should be as bad as they are. And their last 3 weeks have been abhorrent. There's no disputing any of that. They are a much, much better team than that. Like, they beat the Broncos in the middle of the year. They pushed some good teams. I think 8.5 against Newcastle, I think, are a bang average team. And I also think they're a team that have no upside as well. I think that they play a conservative brand of football. Yeah, they get Brandon Best back, which certainly helps. And if the Knights come out and won, it's not going to be a massive shock. But I think the Titans can win this off the stick. So I like them. And I give Canberra a smoky's chance against the Roosters. I'm not in love with it, but a few numbers here that got me excited. Teams are scoring 18 or more against Penrith over the last 4 years. 21-6 against the spread the next week. So teams who go well against the Panthers, the whole form, they've covered 6 of 7 interstate, getting 14 or more points. So I'm going to have a small bet on the plus here.
Jeez.
Blake, you seem to be very, very keen on the overs in that Knights-Titans game as well. A fairly leaky defence on both sides, certainly the Titans, but with the likes of Khan Pereira, they can certainly score a few points as well. He's, newsflash, he's a very fast man.
Yeah. I can't wait for this race that's going to happen.
Oh,
apparently.
Who'd you back? Who's the favourite? Khan Pereira or Saab?
Over 100, I'd go Saab. I just think over the 100, he gets going. Once he gets up, those long strides will chew him up at the end.
Yes.
But I think over a quick one, you're probably more inclined to do a Khan Pereira or someone else. But yeah, looking at that game, mate, I feel like Teddy. It couldn't be close, but I think it could be like 34-32 or something.
100%.
The amount of and the Knights have plenty of points in them. We saw that against a bad Rabbitohs team. I still yet to see Ponga at his best. He's been slowly creeping up each game. I just think for them to go to that next level and to make the top 8, I think he needs to step the game up a bit more. Bradman Best will help, but like you said, Fafita with Foran still there, these players can put on points whenever they want as well.
Yep.
So high scoring game, but I don't like that Teddy is gone for the plus in the Raiders because once again another one of my bets I'm looking at, and I need to start conversing with Teddy before I post these bets on.
I've been so out of form the last few weeks, Blake. It might well and truly work in your favour. I don't love the Raiders. There's a few numbers that push me into them, but the Roosters have got so many points in them that if the Roosters come out and won by 40, it's not going to shock anyone, is it?
No.
Well, now that we're talking of punting, why don't we get to what we're going to actually have a go at this weekend? And I can tell you that Karl has sent his bet through for this weekend, just the one bet. It's a 3-leg multi. He's got the Roosters -7.5, the Dogs head-to-head, and the Knights head-to-head. That comes out at $3. He's got the whole 100 on. So a little 3-leg multi for Karl. Roosters minus, Dogs head-to-head, Knights head-to-head. Blake, you wanna take us through your betting strategy this weekend?
I've just got 2 bets on. I've got a multi. I've got the Broncos 1-12. Spoke about. I think it's going to be tight. I think the Broncos will win. Manly +6.5. On the alternate handicap there, and the Warriors +14.5. $90 on at $9.80. My last 10, I'll be having same game multi on the Roosters game. I've got Dominic Young 2 tries, Daniel Tupou 2 tries, Roosters 13+ over 51.5.
What was that?
That's $18.76, so $10 on that one.
Whoosh. Teddy.
If that happens, I want to be very, very broke come Sunday night.
Like the last race, the last game.
I'm going to go, I'm fair way behind, so I'm going to go all in on one 4-leg multi. Storm +12.5. Panthers -17.5. St. George head-to-head. Cronulla head-to-head, 7.32.
Too bad.
Okay. I want to change my bet now, but no, I'm going to stick with it.
Can't.
I can't. No.
Well, you're going Warriors in the DWZ again?
Oh no, I'm even more convinced about the Storm now on Thursday night. They're 5-0 this season on a Thursday night. Their biggest loss this season has been by 7 points. So they're always in games. They've won quite a few close ones to be fair, but they just haven't. No team has run over the top of them and done it. And they've had players out from their spine for a number of games this season. So
most of the season.
Yes. Yeah. So they're not really, this is not foreign territory for them having Jerome Hughes out, although in my opinion, he has been the best in that team all season long.
Been the best in the comp, and it'll be a travesty if he doesn't win that.
Because of the bye, well, not the bye, but because he's not playing this weekend, it makes it just a wee bit more interesting, I guess. But so, punting wise, I'm going to take the Storm plus 12.5. I was very, very tempted to put them in head to head at $4.10, but I will do that personally. But for the purposes of this, Melbourne Storm plus 12.5. I'm going to take the Dragons to bounce back against Parramatta. And the news that Teddy said that maybe the Eels might be resting one or two just makes me even more encouraged. So the Dragons head to head, and the last leg over 50.5 points in the Knights Titans game. That comes out at $6.02, the whole 100 on. Hopefully I can get halfway back to zero after this week. It's been a rough old go, unfortunately.
Don't chase your losses, punters.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm being very responsible here. So thank you for that, Teddy, reminder.
Any promos on this week, Paul?
Well, let's have a little bo peep. Of course, we've got the Mega Multi Oval Ball promotion. You can get up to $50 bonus cash back over a 4-leg, a 6-leg, or an 8-leg or more multi. Just check out all.
Does that include the NFL as well, Paul?
No, not at the moment. But the season doesn't start until next week. Yeah. So I'm sure. Well, I'll have a word with the boys because I know we've got an American sport mega multi, which you can throw in your little NFL leagues when you're ready. And I'm just having a look. Where's the? I'll have a word with the boys about a same game multi promotion because I don't see one here at the moment, but we'll have a look into it. And don't forget, always check out the promotions page at tab.co.nz. That's where you'll find all the good promotions for the upcoming week.
Jeez, right. I'll be happy with it.
We're only 1 week away now from the start of after this week, we're only 1 week from the business end of the season. Teddy will be all up and about with his Bulldogs entrenched inside that top 8. Maybe. Are they still a chance of a top 4, Teddy?
Yeah, still a chance, but they're going to need Penrith to drop a game to either the South or the Titans, I would think so. Probably not going to get there. But do we want the Dogs to finish top 4? Maybe, but you're going to go in and have to go to Melbourne and possibly suffer confidence first. I think I'll be happy to take my chances beating up on Newcastle, St George Illawarra.
I get the feeling that you'll be at a core stadium for that matchup if it was to eventuate week 1 of the finals.
Paul, I'm so confident I'll probably just wait for week 2.
Sensational. Blake, what are you up to this weekend? Oh, I hear you're playing back on the footy field.
Yeah, back on the footy field. I've managed to somehow make the Bay of Plenty team, so it'll be getting into some rep footy. So looking forward to it, Paulie. But just watching some more footy. I've got a lot of my teams invested now. Obviously, the Dogs, the Roosters, the Storm, all my boys be there to fight out for the premiership. So be cheering them on.
Yeah, prayers for those 3 teams now that Blake's back in.
To go with the 4 teams you've played with.
Yeah.
Don't forget the Dragons. 1 or 2 wins this season wouldn't winners. Anyway, thanks for joining us on the Advantage Line. We'll be back next week. Karl will be back next week. So we'll have a full roster as we look at the final round of the regular season for the NRL and look forward to the juicy finals football that awaits us and not too far away. Teddy, Blake, thanks for joining us. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.